Welcome to J and Hope podcast show. I'm your host, Praxidis Ndisi. Currently, in our country, Kenya, there's been a lot of fear in most of our boarding secondary schools in the country. And this fear has been brought about by the fire strikes that have been happening in these schools. Today, we are going to look at the major causes of these fire outbreaks that have been happening recently. One of the reasons is not being heard by the school administration. Most of the students, when it comes to boarding schools, most of the students are undergoing challenges, which sometimes these students may try to report those challenges to the administration, but sometimes the schools are these students are not being heard by these teachers or those who are the top, like the principals, like those major administration. So because these students are not being heard, this might trigger them to start these fire burnouts. Another reason is mob psychology and peer pressure. This point we can use an example of the Utumishi Girls Secondary School that was burnt out. That was the first school to bring out this issue of fire breakdown. And the major reason why this fire came out of this school is because of the 9 students that came out. And the reason why they burnt this school is because of that pressure, that mob psychology pressure. Another possible reason for these fire strikes to happen in most of our secondary school boarding schools in Kenya is because of there is no proper counseling sessions or services that these schools offer. Most of our secondary schools, these counselors, these people who are in the counseling department, most of them are these teachers that teach these same children. Do not find proper counseling from professionals. This can make them to bring about these fire strikes because they are not being heard, they are not being understood. Sure. Another point to take home is some of the students, or let's say most of them, are encountering mental health issues such as trauma. And this usually comes up because maybe a student has issues from home that maybe can trigger him or her to start these fires. So this is a very major cause, because when it comes to mental health issues to these students, they don't have that platform, or they don't have the place to go to address these issues that are facing. Can be a major cause of bringing out these fire strikes in most of our schools. Also, these students can be encountering an issue of exam pressures and fatigue. Most of our schools, most of these students from home, they are being pressured by parents. When you go to school, you must have this, you must focus, you must work hard to attain this. This can be a very major cause of them to be pressured. And this pressure can lead to this, will lead to these fire strikes, because they need to be, their lives are being pressured too much. They are not being heard, they are not being listened by both parents and teachers. And also in schools, they are being pressured. They must work hard, they must be on time, there is a lot of pressure in schools. And let's say an example, most schools most secondary schools, boarding schools in Kenya, most of them, I can just use an example, most of them wake up very early in the morning, 4 a.m., 3 a.m., and they also go in bed very late. So they don't have time for themselves. They are just being pressured by these exam issues, these national exam issues, the internal, external examinations. So this can be a very major major reason of them striking, bringing fire strikes in the school, so that they can be heard, so that they can be able to, so that these teachers, parents can hear them. Another possible reason is that some students in those schools, they have been brought up poorly by either guardians or parents. that some of the students, some of the parents, they're not careful on taking good care of their children. They have neglected them. Some of them, they are busy with other issues. Yes, they have those responsibilities of taking care of them financially, but they are not keen when it comes to the characters of their children. So that's where some children, when they go back to school, they tend to bring out those bad habits, and this can lead to, they tend to bring out those bad habits that will cause them to bring these fire strikes in some of these schools. Another reason is these students may be experiencing poor living conditions in some of those schools that they are learning. Let's say some dormitories or their classes, they're not in good conditions and they're not comfortable, and when they try to bring out this issue, they're not heard. So the best way they can take this issue is to bring these fire strikes, to bring this fire burnouts, so that they can be heard in a hard way.